weren't going to put that same pressure on Manchester City as they did the season before. And what they've done this season is they've learnt that draws weren't good enough, and they've started on fire. They just started and they put pressure on Man City. Man City, unfortunately, got injuries to key players, and Liverpool have just continued to win. And it's almost like now, for me, it's inevitable that they're going to do it. The fact is that they've been relentless. They've not given anybody the opportunity to come back at them. None at all.
However, they won't have had many tougher games than that one against Wolves. That was a real test. Well, if they're looking to go unbeaten for the rest of the season, which is obviously got to be an aim now because the title is wrapped up, as everyone knows, then that was one of the potential stumbling blocks along the way. Wolves are an exceptional team. They were brilliant last night. They were very unlucky, actually, to lose. They give Liverpool problems, but Liverpool can not only beat you 5-0, but they can grind away as well, and they can win the 1-0s. I think they've won 2-1 or by the odd goal so many times this season. So it just shows you they can do it anyway. If you want to fight them, they've got big, strong leaders. You want to play football, they're brilliant at that too. They are the real deal. Are they a story, Miguel, anymore, now that it looks as though they're going to go on and do it?
Well, we've actually been discussing that in the office and in press boxes and that, as in, is there much more... Well, really, there's not much more new to say about Liverpool at this point because so much has been discussed. And this is what Michael said there. I mean, the chasm that we saw at the top of the table, it isn't always reflected in games because so many have been so narrow. And I suppose you can look at that two ways. On one hand, they're getting away with it. On the other hand, it just shows they've got that resilience to always get through. And if they haven't lost some of those games that have been so narrow against Spurs, even against United for patches last week, even though they really should have won that by, 4 by half-time, and Wolves last night, and when are they going to slip? But yeah, and it's one of those things, from a journalistic perspective, it will flip in the next few games if they stay unbeaten and stay on this winning run, because then it's no longer about just seeing the title through, it's about invincibles, centurions, and all the rest of it. Is that how you motivate yourself? And they've got the positions that you've been in when you've won your titles have been tighter than this. They've gone down. I think Blackburn was the last game of the season. At Manchester United, it was, I think, the penultimate game, wasn't it? The draw against Blackburn, actually. And then yours were at most 2 or 3 games before the end of the season. So I think it's a different kind of mentality that you need, isn't it, going into the final games, trying to get over the line with this sort of cushion. Absolutely. I just love the admiration, and a lot of admiration for Jurgen Klopp and the players at Liverpool to only lose 1 game last season and miss out on the championship to Man City and come back, roll their sleeves up and want to do it again and go through that. In my time, if we would have lost out on the last game of the season, I would still be having sleepless nights now. I would not be able to sleep. I would never, ever be able to have that time again to think that I could have won the title. And it's even more pressure. This is a huge club in Liverpool. They've not won it for 30 years. To grind it out like they're doing, winning spectacularly and finding different ways to win, they have all my admiration. I just think the manager is key. The team mirror him. He always finds a positive, even when things weren't going well when he first come to Liverpool. Or wasn't going spectacular. He was building, and he had total belief that he could get them to this position, and they fully deserve it. You know what I think as well? Is that because of the way Man City, how dominant they've been, and they've been magnificent. I think that Liverpool started the season knowing that they're going to have to be, Man City winning the Champions League's helped as well because they can really focus on the Premier League. But knowing that they've got to go in and beat such a good team has put so much pressure on City that Liverpool, like I said, have been so relentless. But in the end now, you've seen City, they've fallen off, and now it's just a procession for me, for Liverpool. You think it's flipped around in that sense, that the pace City set is actually coming back to bite them.
Absolutely.
It's raised Liverpool's level and that they can't sustain it.
Talking about finding different ways to win, they went for a Jordan Henderson header, or header-ish, for the opening goal for Liverpool. That's right. He doesn't score many. Certainly doesn't score many headers, and we've been discussing, can you class this as a header? I think it starts off coming off the head, but then it hits the shoulder. It's a little bit of a similar goal to the game against Manchester United. Trent Alexander, right-footed, out-swinging corner into the same area. Van Dijk nodded it in that time, but it was Jordan Henderson with a rare header stroke shoulder this time. But Wolves were so good. We knew that they were going to be a big test for
for Liverpool ahead of this game. It was talked about as the one that they could potentially end that unbeaten run. And there were certainly a few nervous moments from Wolves, none more so than when they actually pulled themselves level.
Yeah, and the way they pulled themselves level is the way they've been playing. You look at this brilliant, not tight enough on him, and his link-up play is brilliant, but he's not satisfied, so he's still linking up the play. And when you've got someone like Traore, he's sucked Robertson in, and then he's gone wide, and then this is where he used to fall down with a cross, but then, you know, it's a great cross, and it's a fantastic header. He's not just hit the target, he knows exactly where he's putting that header. That is top draw. Brilliant, fantastic stuff.
You're a big fan of Owen, aren't you?
Massive fan, massive fan. As long as the striker's scoring, I like them. As soon as they stop scoring, I'll go to someone else.
You'd be all right with Roberto Firmino then.
Absolutely.
But Raul Jimenez with 20 goals and 9 assists, which is a goal involvement of 29, which is more than any other Premier League player. When you look at the names on that list, it's just an extraordinary achievement from him. They didn't come away with at least the point that they would have thought that they deserved from that game because of Roberto Firmino, Tim.
Absolutely. A lot has to go down to the recruitment there. I mean, it's been outstanding. You know, Moutinho, Neto, see him have a little cameo last night. He was outstanding there, dribbling it, taking it to people. Yotto is one of the best number 10s in the league for me. You know, Adama Traore, who I had at Aston Villa, who never looked like anything like that. But Nuno has brought him on and he's developed into a top-class player. The recruitment is fantastic, and now at this time it's very topical, and the transfer window is open, and a lot of top teams, Man United, are struggling to find players to strengthen them. Now, I could think of 6 players who play for Wolves who were strengthened Manchester United. So why can they find them, and teams like United can't? Now, you have to ask the question, something seriously wrong at your club.
We will come on to that later on. In the moment, though, we're going to concentrate on the very top of the league and look at that winner by Roberto Firmino with 6 minutes left to go. Did it feel like it was coming, or was it completely against the
you just can never write them off. You know, you look at where he's gone out to get the throw in, and he doesn't get it. But what he does is like any good striker should do. Once it doesn't happen for you out there, get yourself back in the box. And you got Mo Salah there. I didn't know what he was trying to do with it, but he didn't look like he was looking for anyone. But then the awareness of Jordan Henderson was just magnificent. And once he's in this position, it's over. It's over for him. And, you know, he comes up with the goods all the time. He's so good.
Such good work by Mohamed Salah as well. And for Jordan Henderson taking it off Salah to make sure, because there were a couple of times in the game where other players were getting frustrated they didn't pass. He wasn't going to do it that time. Jordan Henderson did it for him.
Exactly.
Make sure that Firmino got his opportunities. So that means that Liverpool's unbeaten run is stretched even further. They're on an extraordinary run of form. That's 40 games now, which brings them level with the Chelsea team of 2004-2005. At Nottingham Forest in the 1970s, their unbeaten run was ended by Liverpool, and of course the Arsenal 2003-2004 team were on that 49-game unbeaten run as part of the invincible season. We're talking about Liverpool setting themselves different targets as the season goes on. Can Liverpool be invincible this season? I
think they can be invincible. I don't think it's the last thing on their minds at the minute, because we know how important it is for them to win the Premier League. If being invincible comes along in that run, you've got to go back, you know, with them winning the Champions League as well, then you have to say it's an unbelievable effort from them. But I think at the moment that will only add more pressure to them, trying to think of going unbeaten. Rather than just finishing off the league and getting that done first. I mean, looking at the stats, those for Liverpool this season are slightly up on the ones, or down in case of shots faced. But, you know, they're slightly up on what Arsenal did in that season. But a lot of the players who were part of that team have talked about the pressure of remaining unbeaten that sometimes held them back in games, that stopped them maybe going for the win rather than... And to be fair to this Liverpool, a lot of people constantly mentioning the amount of draws that Arsenal had in that season, which, you know, they're still not losing, but you're looking at a team like Liverpool who, you know, they're still not hit that unbelievable, fluid, beautiful football, but they win games. They find a way to win games like that Wolverhampton game. I'm sure they would have been happy with a 0-0. I mean, a 1-1, I should say, a draw in that game, because they were so good. But then in the end, they've got the quality to be able to win that game. And that might be their motivation now as well, to go unbeaten, because the league's over. What are you going to do for the next sort of 15 games or so? But to
write yourself in the history books is obviously a big motivation. And it will be interesting to see what Jurgen Klopp does with his squad as well now. Will he, as soon as he wins the league, you might have another 10 games to go, will he start resting players and concentrating on the Champions League? Even FA Cup, they've played their kids in the FA Cup. All of a sudden, you think to yourself, well, should you reverse that and target more trophies? Because, they're going to win it with so many games left to play.
Michael, you had a bit of that in 2010-11 with United, didn't you, where it was until February they were unbeaten against Wolves, actually. How much that play in the dressing room in that sense? So did you actually start to believe it was possible?
Oh, I think you do. It's in the back of your mind. And of course, they can't finish a game without us interviewing them. Yeah. And it's the first thing you say, you're getting excited about winning the league. What about, can you go unbeaten? I mean, it's definitely in their mind. And as I say, at some point, they're going to win the league and they're going to have dead rubber games. Yeah. To the extent that we've probably never seen before. Yeah. So they're going to have something that's going to really motivate them. And I think going on a run... I read somewhere the other day, I think it was Steve Nicol, the ex-Liverpool player, saying he'd prefer to go a season unbeaten and win the Premier League than to win the double of Champions League and the Premier League. I mean, it's staggering for me. But it just shows you that it is something that you can be very proud of. Not many teams go unbeaten throughout the season. Yeah,
it's been unusual for players to not want to have that trophy lift moment, to have something that doesn't come with the medal at the end of it. But it does, like you say, it illustrates just how highly regarded that achievement would be.
But it's an added incentive also for the teams playing against them. If I'm next in line, I sat down last night, I thought, tonight's the night. I mean, they've got the ammunition to hurt Liverpool. They're going to Molineux. They're going to be up. There's no incentive in that dressing room and say, we'll be the team. The longer it goes, there's more incentive for the next one. We tried it when we played against the Arsenal side. There's nothing we wanted more than to stop their run for them to be invincibles. And that is, later on in the season, some of the teams, not so much because it's so competitive, the nature of the Premier League. So wherever you are, you've got something to fight for. Yeah. But this is... the champions, they will be champions. In a couple of months, they will be champions. They will still be coming. Their only thing left is to go invincible. For you to play against them and to stop that unbeaten run and be the party poopers, that's massive. It certainly would be for me. I like spoiling parties.
and you do it very well.
Thank you.
The other side of it as well, it's not even just about first beating them. It's actually about stopping them in any way because of the extent of this win and run. I mean, what they're doing is actually almost kind of brain scrambling in that way because the exact levels of it. I mean, if you remember when the Premier League, first started, that would be First Division became Premier League, and United kind of set a tone with everyone used to talk about how demoralising it was that Ferguson's team, they'll always get the last-minute winner or last-minute equaliser. And yet Liverpool are levels beyond that because it's not just kind of saving games every so often. It's that every single game they eventually just find a way to not just get the result but actually win. I mean, it's just... I don't know, but I mean, for a lot of teams facing them, must be, Christ, this is...
Yeah. But as much as they could take confidence from it, would it knock the confidence of their opposition, knowing that they have a team that's... And like as Tim's saying, it can be you can use it as motivation, or as long as the game goes on, you think this Liverpool team could be back in this, even if you are beating them or drawing against them.
But even when we talk about Liverpool and... they're getting it done. We're not seeing that scintillating Manchester City football, when Man City were doing something, just playing people off the park, but they're getting it done. And when you're standing in the tunnel with a team that even when they're playing poorly, they're getting it done, it's even more difficult for you because the first thing you're thinking when you're in there is, suppose this is the day when they totally get it right the way they play, because when they don't get it right, they can still beat you. So it's very hard to get yourself going to try and beat them. You stay in the game as long as you can, and then what you see is something like what Roberto Firmino does. He comes up with the goods at the end because we've got such quality players on the pitch.
Jurgen Klopp's going to be speaking later on today when we'll hopefully get an update on the fitness of Sadio Mane, but he came off injured in the game with just about half an hour gone. I'm not going to say could that derail Liverpool's title challenge, but how are they going to cope for the games that they're going to be missing, and what will they do, do you think?
I don't think it's serious for starters. I mean, he walked off without a limb. I'm told it's a hamstring injury and that it's not too bad, is what I'm hearing. Now, they play in the FA Cup this weekend away at Shrewsbury. He wasn't going to play in that anyway. And then they've got 2 games coming up that you wouldn't say are against any of the top teams either. And then they've got a break of, I don't know, a week, 10 days, something like that. So, in my opinion, he's going to miss 2 games that he would potentially have played. I mean, he might even be able to play in the second of those games. You never know. But why would you risk it? There's so many big games coming up. just give him as much time as he needs because, you know, for that game after the international break, he's got about 2-3 weeks to prepare for that.
Though, wasn't it? It's sensible.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because the way he pulled up, it wasn't one of those...
sharp, was it?
Exactly, yeah.
It looked like he pulled up because Mo Salah had the ball and he knew he wasn't going to give it to him. But in the end, he's obviously felt a cramp in
a
that
little
place.
something. Yeah. That's the thing. Yeah. What people don't realise is that sometimes you feel like, what was that? If it's the hamstring and you feel it, even that little tweak there, you should do exactly what he's done there.
Yeah, exactly. It's
That's
not
10
going to get
days
any
more
better.
than 6 weeks.
Hamstring muscle injuries don't get any better the longer you keep playing. At the minute, and as I say, we're all guessing, but at the minute it's looking like it's only going to be, you know, a week, 10 days out. But if he continued, as Wright, he said, the next stage is a 6-week injury. And you don't want to be doing that when you've got so many big games coming up. And if I were Jurgen Klopp, I'd just be looking at the next 3 games, as I say, one in the FA Cup, a couple of Premier League games that you'd expect them to win without him, and then get them fully firing again, because Champions League's about to start again soon.
Yeah, it's all about managing their squad, isn't it? But it did seem like a huge fee at the time, but is still a huge fee, but the £75 million paid to bring Virgil van Dijk to Anfield must be some of the best money ever spent by the club.
Yeah, the centre-back gave us an insight into the team's mentality when it comes to delivering success.
This is Anfield, the home of the European champions.
I think that stays in my mind forever, I think, and it was a very special evening, special night for me, for my family, and for the whole team. I think, especially in the holidays, and it was something that I had to proper sit down and reflect what actually happened over the whole year, and after that, just focus on what's coming next.
Liverpool dare to crave for just a little bit more.
We have plenty of quality players that can make a difference throughout the whole 90+ minutes, and you know, if we should believe in that at all time, and so that's definitely something we try to put in our heads. We keep in our heads, and we have to keep doing that. I'm very happy that I've already obviously been welcomed in the LFC family. I'm a part of a bit of history already with winning the Champions League, and hopefully we can just keep making history. And other than that, I just want to be remembered as a fantastic player who gave everything for the team, and yeah, just enjoyed every bit of it.
Well, he's certainly on course for being remembered in exactly that way. As far as Liverpool's Premier League seasons are concerned, they could have gone for the record that Chelsea have of only conceding 15 across the whole season, but they were conceding against Wolves last night. The possibility of that record has gone. But after 23 matches, the defence has only been this good on 2 previous occasions, and it's only been better on 1 occasion at this stage. How much of that is down just to Van Dijk?
Well, it has to be, and Alisson.
Yeah.
And to be fair, he was out injured a few times, so Adrian come in and he did well. They conceded a few goals, but they managed to score enough at the other end. He's just a machine. The Rolls Royce is the only thing I could say about this kid. I mean, everyone looked at him when he was at Celtic, and it was really hard to judge how good he was because of the competitive nature of the league. Because you go and watch him play for Celtic, they're so dominant. He hardly made a header in the game. He just strolled through it. But then he went to Southampton, and he's almost done it there. I mean, they're struggling side, and he's certainly doing it at Liverpool. We see him break stride into an actual sprint about 4 times every game. Now, that shows how good he is. He reads the situations. He pulls people around. He's a leader. He's very calm, you can see. And I don't think he's flash. You know, he's got every reason to be flash. The kid has got everything going for him, but he's not. He's level-headed. He just wants to win. He wants to continue to win and win everything. He's picked up the Champions League. He's going to pick up the Premier League. And I think internationally, it looks like Holland are back on track as well. So, you know, everything's going well for him. And I think he's a main reason why Liverpool have turned into winners. Yeah,
it's interesting you make that point that people were unsure about him at Celtic because he just strolled through games and barely made a header. In fact, that's what he does. That's just how he plays. No, but you're right. It's trying to balance out whether he could do it against better opposition, which is exactly what he's doing at the moment. But Joe Gomez as well and Virgil van Dijk, key at the back for Liverpool. So I wonder what fans in Liverpool make of them. We can head to the dockside, the River Mersey, and join our reporter, Simon Crabtree. Oh, hello, Crabbers. There you are. We can see you now loud.
Hi.
I was going to say we can see you loud and clear. That's not the correct phrase at all, is it? But we can hear you loud and clear, and we can definitely see you. And you have a guest alongside you as well to talk about the importance of not just Virgil van Dijk, but of the partnership that he struck up yet again with Joe Gomez.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's Mel Stewart from the Anfield Wrap, who I'm sure you'll recognise, and he will say much clearer things than you or I can clearly say. But we were talking about Joe Gomez, and he's played every Premier League match. In fact, he's played every match apart from that League Cup game at Aston Villa since the start of December. But it almost feels or felt, Mel, like he came in because Joe Matip got injured in October and Dejan Lovren got injured in December. It was almost like the default partner.
I mean, that's kind of how it's been as Virgil's partner over the last few years or so. But, I mean, Joel Matip, he was, I believe, Premier League Player of the Month just before he got injured, so he was doing really well. But if you think back to the end of last season and how well Matip finished that season, first Premier League game of the season, it was still Gomez who was alongside Van Dijk. So I think Klopp, and me personally, there's a lot of fans out here who believe that going forward, this is the partnership.
It was very stop-y-starty with him, wasn't it? He got that injury, a really bad injury with his knee, then he got that fracture of his lower leg against Burnley.
Really
he still played a good number of games in that season, one of the quickest recoveries I can remember. But Virgil van Dijk can probably lead, maybe not you or I, but he could lead a lot of players and make them much better players.
I'd fancy my chances. To be honest with you, yeah, that's probably true. And when you've got an elite defender like him who you can learn off of, it's going to make your life a lot easier. But I think deep down, you may never get him to say it on camera, but if you ask Virgil who his preferred partner is, I think he'd say Joe, because what Joe has that the other two don't have is that lightning recovery speed. We saw it last night, whenever late in the game against Wolves, when they were trying to hit balls over the top for Traore to chase after, it was Gomez who was the one who was there first to collect him. And I think that kind of symbiotic relationship they have, where Virgil can use the strength and the positioning and Joe can do the covering, but also his passing ability as well. It just looks like they've got everything you need to be a dominant centre-half partnership for a long time to come.
If I knew what symbiotic meant, I would possibly agree with you or not. We were thinking about Glasses Gate. Do you remember the Norwich City match, the 5-4 game, when Jurgen broke his glasses in the celebration right at the end? And looking at the defence there, Moreno, Sacco, Kolo Toure and Nathaniel Cant, it feels an awful lot better, with every respect to them, than that one, doesn't it?
It does, and I mean, obviously, Sacco in particular, Klein, they had periods where they were playing well for Liverpool, and yet you can still see that was definitely something that Klopp highlighted early on that we was going to have to change. And it took some time. He wasn't able to do it all in one go. But when you look where we are now, 4 years later, we're very much a more stable unit all the way through. And I think something that's really key to all this that we weren't able to do in previous years, we're getting our first choices. Alisson was our first choice. Virgil van Dijk was our first choice, even though we had to wait for them. And what that means is that all these plans that we've put in place, once they get into the team, they kind of hit the ground running a little bit more.
Right, listen, I know that Kelly won't ask you this question because she's in the same boat as you, but at the Liverpool against Manchester United game, full-time whistle went, and everybody inside Anfield Stadium of a red Liverpool persuasion, we're going to win the league, and now you're going to believe it. We all heard it.
Yes.
Are you going to... Kelly, are you? Mo,
Look,
are you?
I mean, I'm still not sure why there's so need for us to say it, because you heard it there. I still think that was a little bit of fun for the United fans to a certain extent, but we've cleared so many hurdles and we've found so many different ways to win football matches. It's hard to think of a way how it could go wrong from here.
It
sounds like a very politician answer.
The next time that Manchester City play in the Premier League, Liverpool could be 22 points clear at the top. Get off the fence. Say it. You've won it. Think about your quintuple or whatever you called it before.
Simon, all I will say is, when you've been waiting for 30 years, you can wait until it's mathematically
I'm only 27.
Sure.
I wouldn't know about that. Can I just give you a quick update, just before you chuck in anything, by the way? Jurgen Klopp in his press conference has been asked about Sadio Mane, and he said he doesn't know, he thinks he's still in the scanner, and he hasn't phoned him from the scanner. So we're still officially unaware of exactly what it is. But as I think it was Michael said before, wasn't it? He walked off the pitch, so that was a good sign from him, and he probably wouldn't have played after 7 successive matches in at least the next one.
Might even be a good time for him to get a rest.
So they're scanning him just to make sure they've got a photocopy of him if they need one.
It's one of those scans where he's turned around and he's just...
I wouldn't put it past him.
Crabbers, we were having that conversation, and Mo, we were having a conversation in the studio about what Liverpool aim for now. I know Mo's not going to say point blank that Liverpool are going to win the league title, but should they win it early, they're still in the FA Cup, at least until they play Shrewsbury at the weekend, depending on the results in that one. And then they're still, the FA Cup is still up for grabs, and then, of course, still in the Champions League. So is it, from a fan's point of view, about concentrating on other competitions if the league gets sewn up early? Is it about breaking records in the Premier League, or is it about just doing all of that?
For me personally, I would always take trophies over records. I mean, records in theory can be broken down the years, but if you look back at this Liverpool team in 10, 15 years, you're going to look back at the trophies they won. That's how you're going to define how good they were in comparison to their peers.
Do you not get a trophy for, like, best Premier League record after 23 matches?
Apparently not.
A trophy for that one? No, isn't it? You talk to you genuinely care. I mean, you'll know this, guys, anyway. When you talk to the players, you talk to the manager, they're not bothered about the other stuff. They want, like Mo says, whose name is on that trophy at the end of the season. And you wonder, don't you, if it is that it's at Manchester City that they win that trophy, and there's 6 games left, and they're still in the Champions League, and they're still in the FA Cup, whether that second squad then comes in.
It's going to be tough to tell Mo Salah that he's not going to be able to go for the Golden Boot. That might be a tricky thing, but in general, I think that we're going to have to start looking at...
Sadio might get that anyway, mightn't
well,
he? But...
don't say that around Salah.
You say that like it would make it better for Mo Salah.
There's going to be some kind of interesting conversations between Klopp and his players if we do it that early. But, I mean, it's a wonderful problem to have.
You've got Atletico Madrid and Shrewsbury Town before, of course, you think about any of those things.
Very much so.
And Shrewsbury, I don't think they've won a league match in this year, and they're in the 3rd tier of English football, but hey.
Atletico Madrid are another team with a big European pedigree. Obviously, we've had a really fantastic record in Europe under Klopp, so hopefully that will continue.
Excuses.
I know, it's not an excuse. It's giving the team the respect they deserve, Simon. That's what it is. But at the end of the day, if we can get past Atletico Madrid into the quarter-finals, no one's going to want to draw us. And the idea of being English, European and world champions at the same time and having the whole summer to sing about that, gosh, I like the sound of that.
I'm noticing a little bit of frustration on your behalf, because you're covering this patch pretty much every day. And one, there's the sort of resistance from the supporters of wanting to believe that this is going to happen, not wanting to jinx it. And at the same time, it's sort of coupled with this extreme confidence in the team that they see in front of them because of the evidence that they have.
It's true. I think I was saying this before to Simon. There's an element of we've seen what's happened in previous years, so you don't want to go too early. And there's quite a lot of people who would be very happy if we all celebrated too early, and it turned out it didn't end that way. But there's also an element of the fact that we've seen this team solve so many issues and solve so many hurdles and win games so many different ways. It's almost disrespectful if we believe that they could actually mess it up from here, because they've proven time and time and time again that when it gets to the crunch, when it's a tough game, they're able to go out there and win it. I think last night's game was a classic example of that. So I'm of the opinion, I'm not going to officially say it, but I'm definitely thinking that it's a lot more likely than unlikely.
2 more things that I'd like to say to you. Shaqiri and Milner definitely out for the Shrewsbury tie. Cater to be assessed. Lovren is available. And the other one is, at some point over the next couple of weeks, I'm going to go to Aintree and I'm going to tell everybody the story about Devon Lock. Yeah. And that is just the only thing now that is in the back of everybody's mind, isn't it? I'll explain it when we've got more time. Ferguson brought it up when
Liverpool were ahead previously.
Well, I didn't want to say his name.
When they were going for a title.
He would constantly say it.
But when he did, Liverpool did hold on and did go on and lift the trophy at the end of the season. So just mentioning it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad omen. But yes, you're right. It is the kind of story that you want to bring in to add a little bit of jeopardy to the season. Crabbers and Mo, thank you very much for joining us. Now, important at times for Liverpool, Fabinho. He came on in the game against Wolves when they were at 1-1, when Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain was taken off. He came on and just seemed to steady things after they went through a really torrid period. And the fact that Jurgen Klopp has been able to call on him quickly, that he's slotted back in, that he's been as effective as he had, it's squad management and also man management as well, isn't it?
Well, first of all, Liverpool have had very few injuries this year. I mean, it's been a great, clean bill of health so far. Fabinho being out, it's a big blow, don't get me wrong, but there's more important times of the season to come, I would suggest. And everyone else around him has been fit as a fiddle. Jordan Henderson has stepped up to the plate, just dropped into the sitting midfielder role. But this lad is very, very good. Top talent. Struggled, I would say, at the start when he first came to adapt to our game. But very quickly, he's got it now. And, there's not many better, if any, sitting midfielders in the Premier League.
But when you also look at it as well, Kels, is that when he got injured, everyone's thinking, he's going to be a big miss. But because the guy's stepped up and played, then what that does, it enables him to then take his time and get himself back at a time of the season where, yes, for me, Liverpool is done in respect to the league, but the games that they've got left, he's going to be probably at his best and getting Liverpool back to when they were really ticking along smoothly. So it couldn't work any better for them in respect to the way the squad's dealt with an injury to such a key player.
As Simon Crabtree mentioned earlier on, Jurgen Klopp has been holding his press conference. He's had his say on his team being called the Inevitables.
How we said before, we couldn't care less about these kind of things. It's really like this. So as far as I'm concerned, I think we are, and it's more not even mathematically qualified for the Champions League for next year. Is that true? Yeah. So the only thing we can do is to be focused on the next football game. This is now Shrewsbury. Then West Ham, then Southampton, and that's how it is. Then we have a week off, and then we start again, and that's the plan. I don't know another plan. So whatever you say about us, if it's positive, thank you very much. If it's negative, I don't care. So that's it pretty much. I cannot change the situation. Never heard about that anything is decided before it's decided. So why we should think about these kind of things. And the game yesterday night is a very, very good example for our situation. It was never easy. It will never going to be easy. And we just have to fight as much as we can. And that's what the boys did last night again. That's why we won the game. And so that's the only thing we can do. And so it's the only thing we are focused on.
Because of the gap, as Jurgen Klopp said, people might think this is easy. But winning a league title is never easy, and winning it in this way isn't easy. The games haven't been won at a canter. They've been fought hard, a lot of them. Are we in danger of maybe underestimating the amount of effort this Liverpool side has to put in to be in this position?
Well, some people might be, but I think people that have been there and done that realise how hard it is. And I think you can always look around for excuses. You can say, well, is the Premier League that strong? Well, look at the European competition last year. We had both teams in the Champions League final, both teams in the Europa League final. I mean, this is the strongest league in the world at the moment, no question about it. Liverpool are world champions, Liverpool are European champions. So there's no flukes about this. The debate is really how good is this Liverpool team compared to greats in the past. And, I mean, I personally think this is the best team I've ever watched. And OK, they've not lifted the trophy yet. And until then, you can't really say best Premier League team ever because they've never won the trophy. But once they do, I think you can start comparing them to the Invincibles of Arsenal, to, the great Manchester City team of recent times, Sir Alex Ferguson's treble-winning side, Chelsea probably first time under Mourinho, those types of teams. But I personally think this is a better team. I mean, all the stats would say they're better. It's phenomenal. It's happening in front of our eyes. Every single game they play, they break another record for whatever it might be. Goals scored, clean sheets, points won, starts to the season. All these records, they're just falling at the hands of Jurgen Klopp's men. And it's a privilege, I think, for everybody to be